Rev up your engines! Mazda Miatas. People can do all kinds of things with them. It's the only two-seater roadster in the United States that ever sold more than 1 million. So they're popular. And they're not just popular in stock form. This one's been modified, and you can decide whether you like the modifications or not. They're not that expensive to modify. There's all kinds of aftermarket parts. In this case, you can tell it's had these fender flares added. So it's wider, got wider tires on it. It has a nice roll cage put on it, was painted to match the paint. Driven by a big man, my grandson, so he's gonna take the wheel off to get in and out. And you check out this gear shift, boy, it's something else, you know? But the main thing is, under the hood, obviously this has been modified. All right, we'll just find some place to stick it for now. The engine has been modified so that it now has 2 exhaust cams. Now, you'll notice it's idling relatively high. You will get a somewhat wonky idle. Guys that put 2 exhaust cams do it for one reason. They do it for speed. You want speed, go ahead and do it. You can adjust it to your heart's content. You're never going to get a perfect idle. In this sense, it's kind of like what we used to do when we were kids in the 60s. If you were going to soup up a big, say, Pontiac, so you're going to hook up an old Judge and soup it up, we'd put racing cams. They would idle like crap. They'd sit there, lump, 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 and they'd backfire and stuff, but at high speed, screamers. And that's why people do this. If you want a regular running Miata, for fun, piddle around in it, do not use 2 exhaust cams. And you'll have a regular Miata that's perfectly fine the way that it goes. It'll only add maybe 12 horsepower maximum to it. So there's no way it's going to reach the 315 horsepower of a Civic Type R. You can forget that. They're completely different machines. It's a fun, cheap little toy. Hey, the wheels and the tires on that Honda Civic Type R cost more than this whole car. Now, if you want, you can modify these things. Some guys will even put superchargers on these things. You can spend as little or as much as you want. Now, a supercharger kit's pushing $3 grand just for the kit for this thing, if you really want to get more horsepower on them. But they're kind of fun to drive around the way they are. And like I say, it's got the flared fenders. They weren't all that expensive. This was all done homemade. People did it themselves in their garage. And realize this is a Tennessee car, so it doesn't have to meet emission standards. You're not going to meet any of the federal emission standards, so forget doing it if you have to have it inspected for emissions. It won't pass when you do something like that. Oh, these are really reliable little engines. They're pretty solid made, right? And this one's got a cold air intake. I'm not really a fan myself, but things have been reprogrammed on this, so also see it's got an aluminum aftermarket racing radiator. Somebody stuck in it at some point in time. And it doesn't have power steering. It used to, but that was taken off for the matter of speed. Again, you would only gain a tiny little amount of power, but people try things. A lot of times they think they're getting more than they are. It makes parallel parking on this thing a real bear, maybe a small car. But you gotta be strong turning that baby. A lot of this car's simplicity itself. Convertible top, real hard to get off. Here it goes. That's it. It doesn't need a motor and all kinds of fancy crap. You just flip it and throw it back. I think it really looks cool with this nice roll bar on it, especially with it painted. So let's take it for a spin. Now I can fit in it without taking the steering wheel off, but my grandson can't. So we'll buckle it up, take it for a spin. Here we go. No backup camera. No, when you're just driving, it's not too bad, but if you're parallel parking, forget it. You really gotta turn it. For normal driving, it's okay with no power steering. So here we go to our little drag strip. Now you can hear the idle. Yeah, it's a little bit rough. You put in 2 exhaust cams, it's gonna do that. But once you get to higher RPMs, it does give it a little more zip. Here we go with our little drag strip. Go! It's a lot of fun to drive around. And the one advantage of not having the power steering is steering's real tight on a highway, so it's more enjoyable to drive. It's much more direct and you're going so fast, you don't need that much effort turning it. You can see on the low RPMs, hey, it doesn't have that much acceleration, runs a little on the rough side. So if you want smoothness, don't put 2 exhaust cams in it. But if you want top end power, feel free. So there you have it, an old Mazda Miata. You can pick them up relatively cheaply. You can screw around with the body if you want. You can play around with the engine. If you're really insane, you can throw a supercharger kit. They make them for these things. You can do as little or as much as you want to have a fun little toy. And in this case, all for about the price of what just the rims and tires cost for that brand new Civic Type R. And you can even make it feel like a real race car with a removable steering wheel to give it the look of an actual race car, even though you're not going to be going 200 miles an hour. A lot of fun for a little money. What the heck? Why not? With prices these days, maybe you're having middle-age crisis. It's a really low price if you buy one of these and still have quite a bit of fun. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Zach M says, what's your opinion on an 05 Chrysler 300? Now, back in 05, the 300s weren't too bad. They were coming out newish, big, fast engines, fun to drive. Of course, the transmissions are the weak point. The engines are strong, the trans weak. They blew up all the time. But, you know, now it's almost 20 years old, right? Generally, they're falling apart by then. And the later model ones were absolute crap. Very fast, fun to drive, but they didn't hold up over time. Typical Chrysler. And of course, you know, 05, they were still making the Chryslers okay, but then of course Fiat took over and then Stellantis, and they got cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, so I definitely would not buy any of the late model ones. Brett Timmons says, Scotty, what's your opinion of those 2 old budget off-roaders, Mitsubishi Montero or Dodge Raider, or a first generation Zuzu Troopers? Well, you know, those weren't too bad. The first generations were too bad. They were underpowered. They didn't have that much power, but they could last a really long time. Those first Troopers and the Monteros, they could last quite some time originally. Now, as time went on, they started making them cheaper, and they tried to put bigger engines in, and if they're automatics, the trannies would all blow up when they got mileage on them. So, but when they first came out, they were pretty decently made. You get one cheaper. If it still works, you know, go right ahead. I wouldn't buy modern versions of them, but the first generations were a lot stronger built than the newer ones. Victor Fernandez says, from Norton, Massachusetts. My son used to live there, but now he's in Tiverton, Rhode Island. My check engine light's on. I have evap codes. I change the gas cap. It keeps coming on and off, especially after I fill it up. 2016 Camry. Okay. The main thing I know is the vacuum switching valves for the evap go bad. Check the vacuum switching valves. Sometimes the evap canister will go bad, and there is an evap canister vent valve. Sometimes that vent valve goes bad. Those are the main things that go bad on them. Unfortunately, you're Norton. You have to pass emissions testing. If you were where I'm sitting right now in Tennessee, you wouldn't care because there's no emissions testing. They don't do any kind of car inspection, so you could drive it and it wouldn't really make that much difference. But now you know what to look at. Look at the evap canister valve, and also look at all those VSVs, variable switching valves, on the evap system, and that's what generally goes bad in those. As a mechanic, I hook up my big scan tool and I can test them all. You're going to have to look at them and try to hear if they're leaking or see if hoses is falling off, but a mechanic can hook up his fancy scan tool and he can test them, see if they're bad or not. Nenad says, can I put Corolla seats in the Matrix? Can I swap heated seats from a 2010 Corolla to a 2010 Matrix? Thank you. Okay. Well, they're pretty much the same vehicle. I know they will bolt in. The only hassle is going to be if one car didn't come with heated seats and the other did, you're going to have to hook up all the electronic crap and the switches to turn the electronic heated seats on. That's the only thing. They only have 4 bolts on there. Basically, the interior is the same size and everything. The only problem is going to be hooking up all the electronics, because if your car wasn't set up for heated seats and you're putting heated seats in it, you might have a hard time figuring out how to hook up the switches, and if there's any adjustment for the heating, that could be the stinker to it. You might look at your car first, because a lot of cars actually come with wiring harnesses that are universal, and whatever isn't used is just not plugged, but the wiring is there. Look around. Go to a junkyard. Look at the ones you're taking them out of. See what those wiring is. See if your car has wires like that that just aren't plugged in. If it isn't, yeah, be a simple switch that. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.